Hi, this is Bob Banner from the Phoenix Gathering in Ecuador, and we're going to be interviewing Michael Brownlee from the Boulder County Going Local. So, Michael, tell us a little bit about relocalization first.
Relocalization is an effort to make our communities more resilient and self-reliant. In other words, shifting away from dependence on fossil fuels, shifting away from dependence on global systems, to be able to learn how to begin to learn how to meet our most essential needs locally. And those include things like food, energy, and our economic system as well.
So, why did you start this?
Because with the unfolding of global crises such as climate change and the potential local impacts of climate change, the local impacts of the peaking of global oil production, and the economic instability that all of that creates, it leaves our local communities in a very vulnerable position. So we have to rebuild the local resilience so that we can withstand the shocks of dramatic changes in climate, economy, and our fuel situation.
Yesterday, you said that you're not necessarily opposing globalization, but rebuilding the local, which has been interrupted by economic globalization. Can you say more about that?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing to say is we're not anti-global. I mean, there are many aspects of globalization that are important and that are beneficial, but economic globalization in particular has had really devastating impacts on local communities, local economies, because it's stripped away their ability to provide for themselves. You know, it's obvious in manufacturing, it's becoming more obvious in its food production, so that the communities don't have the ability to provide for themselves. And maybe even more importantly, economic globalization has, as a result of all of this, interrupted or destroyed the fabric of relationships that have been fundamental to human civilization from the very beginning. You know, the connection between the people of a community and the people who grow their food, our connections with the land, with the biosphere, even with the seasons. You know, these are all connections that have been largely lost as a result of economic globalization.
So let's entertain food. Tell us why food is the number one for a lot of these relocalization campaigns throughout the country. They're focusing on food as being a campaign to teach people about this whole effort. So can you just go for it?
Sure. In Boulder County, in our initial research, we found that we could only, this is a county of 300,000 people, and we found that we could only feed about 20,000 people with locally grown food. And we also have learned that in that county there are currently between 45,000 and 48,000 people who are food insecure today, which means that they literally don't know where the next meal is coming from. And as oil and prices increase, as food prices increase, more and more people will be added to their ranks. So we see that developing local food security is extremely important. Obviously, our food system today is such that most of our food is coming from 1,500 to 2,000 miles away. In the United States, 90% of produce is coming from California. And so, in a sense, our local communities are at the end of a very long and fragile supply line. And so the supply chain is subject to fluctuations in prices, and also subject to outages and shortages, as we've seen in Colorado recently. In winter blizzards, we've learned that we only have about 2 days' supply of food at the supermarkets. So we're working to rebuild the local agricultural system so that we can supply more of our food locally. That reduces the consumption of fossil fuels in the production of food and in the transport of food. It also results in food that is much, much healthier for people. You know, the kind of food that's been developed by industrial agriculture through the Green Revolution turns out to be not so healthy for people. So we actually are having a health epidemic in this country, largely driven by very cheap but very unhealthy foods.
So tell us more about the food campaigns, like the supporting CSAs or farmer markets, and also the food directories that your group has been involved in publishing. How has that happened, and what are the repercussions and consequences of it?
Sure. Well, we, in an attempt to begin to map the local food system, we, a team of volunteers working with us, identified the sources of local food, all of the farms growing locally, those that are offering CSAs, community supported agriculture, all the restaurants that are serving locally grown food, all the organizations that are supporting this. And we published this in a magazine called Boulder County's Eat Local Resource Guide, which also had a number of educational articles about local food. And it was the first time that a directory had been put together of all of these sources. It's been extremely well received, and this is just part of a much broader effort to bring greater awareness to people about the importance of the local food system, so that we can do things like begin to train more new farmers. We're going to need many more new farmers than we have now. In this country, in the U.S., there are more farmers over the age of 65 than there are under the age of 30. So we're going to need a whole new generation of farmers. So we have been promoting permaculture courses. We've graduated about 75 people over the last year in permaculture. We've also graduated a class of about 25 permaculture teachers recently. I mean, not we, our organization, but we've helped to organize this, bringing in the instructors to help make this happen. We've been working with the county government to develop a food and agriculture policy council for the county. It's the first time that this has been done. I'm a member of that council now, so that we can advise the county commissioners on policies that need to be implemented to strengthen the local food system so that it is much more reliant on the local level. So those are just some of the examples of what we're doing. We're also doing everything that we can to encourage everyone in our communities to learn how to grow at least some of their own food. We're not telling them you've got to shift and grow all of your own food, but just to learn to grow a little bit of it. And of course, when people experience that, that's very empowering, and they start to begin to understand what's possible and what's been missing in their communities. And also with this kind of integrated food and agriculture effort, we find that what's getting rebuilt are those connections that form community that really have been destroyed to a great degree by economic globalization.
I've got to come through here.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I got to come through.
Okay.